2. Evolution and Classification. 1. Evolution. Gradual change over time. 2. Modern theory of evolution. A. Charles Darwin. 1. Was not the first to think of evolution, but he did figure out how it works, mostly. 2. Darwin did not know about genes or DNA, so he could not know about mutations. B. The modern theory, which combines Darwin's ideas with genetics, contains the following ideas. 1. Earth is old, 4.5 billion years old, and is constantly changing. 2. As the environment changes, evolution causes species to adapt to their environment. 3. Natural selection is the mechanism that causes species to change. 4. Descent with modification. Modern species evolved from earlier species and share a common ancestor. 5. Species that cannot adapt become extinct. 6. New traits arise in a species from mutations and genetic recombination. 3. Environment and evolution. Species usually evolve when the environment changes. A. Changes must be long-term. Species do not evolve because of a change in the season. B. Changes can include 1. Change in climate. 2. Change in temperature. 3. Change in water availability. 4. Change in food availability. 5. Change in amount of sunlight. 6. Introduction of new species, new food, new predator. 7. Species may be moved to a new location, accidentally taken to an island, for example. C. Environmental change does not cause evolution to occur. A temperature or climate change does not itself force a species to change its inherited characteristics. 1. If this were the case, then all species would be able to adapt to the new environment, and extinction would be a very rare event. 4. Natural selection. The basic steps in natural selection are A. Overproduction. Too many offspring are produced that can possibly survive. B. Competition. Offspring must struggle to survive and reproduce. C. Variations. Members of a species are different from each other due to sexual reproduction, genetic recombination, and mutations. 1. Without variations, there is no evolution or natural selection, since there is nothing to select. Species with little or no variation are usually the first to die when the environment changes. D. Survival of the fittest. 1. Offspring who inherit helpful variations are, on average, better able to get resources, escape from predators, and find mates. 2. Offspring with harmful traits have more difficulty surviving and finding mates. 3. Fitness. A measure of how well a trait helps an organism to survive and reproduce in its environment. There is no absolute rule for fitness. What is fit in one environment may be unfit in another. 4. Note: natural selection is not a conscious act. No one is choosing who survives and who doesn't. It is the result of the conditions of the organism's environment. E. Reproduction. 1. More organisms with helpful variations reproduce and pass on their genes to their offspring than those organisms with harmful variations. 2. On average, The next generation has more traits from the fit parents than the unfit ones. 3. Note: traits are still inherited randomly. Individuals' offspring of fit parents can still inherit unfit traits, though it will be unlikely to survive and reproduce. It is only by looking at the entire population that you will see the fit traits become more common. Populations evolve, not individuals. F. Evolution. 1. Does not happen overnight. It takes many generations of repetitive selection and reproduction and to remove all unfit traits. 5. Speciation. The process of forming a new species from an existing species. A. Geographic isolation. A population is separated into two or more different habitats. B. New variation and adaptation. Each population adapts to its new environment in different ways. This results in physical and genetic differences between the two populations. C. Add time. The longer two populations are apart, the greater their differences become. D. Reproductive isolation. Eventually, the populations change so much that they are unable to interbreed, even when brought together. 1. Once two populations can no longer breed together, they are considered new species. 6. Classification. Organisms are classified based on their evolutionary relationship. A. Domains are the largest group of related organisms. 1. Eukarya domain has organisms with eukaryotic cells, cells with a nucleus. Includes single-celled and many-celled organisms. 2. Archaea and bacteria domains have organisms with prokaryotic cells, cells without a nucleus. Includes single-celled organisms only. B. Kingdoms are large groups of related organisms, protists, fungi, plants, animals. C. A species is able to successfully reproduce with its members and produce fertile offspring. 1. Note that this is not a perfect definition. Horses and donkeys can breed together, as can dogs and wolves. Single-cell organisms do not breed. Evolution is a constantly ongoing and gradual process, so there are examples in which the lines between species are blurry. D. The scientific name of an organism is the genus plus the species name. The genus name comes first, but it is like the last name of a person. The same genus indicates closely related organisms. Example: Panthera leo, lion, and Panthera tigris, tiger, are closely related, but Ursus actos, brown bear, and Phascolarctos cinereus, koala bear, are not closely related. E. Branching tree diagrams, phylogenetic trees, and cladograms are often used to show evolutionary relationships. Evolutionary trees show the relationship between living species and extinct species. 7. Evidence. Evidence in support of evolution comes from many fields. A. Fossil record preserves extinct species as well as transitional forms between different types of organisms. Deeper fossils are typically older than those above them. B. Dating of rocks and rock layers confirm the age of the Earth and fossils. Generally, the bottom layers contain the oldest fossils and simpler organisms. Top layers contain the younger fossils and more complex organisms. C. Comparisons of the anatomy, physical structures, embryology, development, chemistry, proteins, and genes, DNA, of species confirm expected relationships. Homologous structures are similar body parts modified to perform different functions. Homologous structures indicate a common ancestor. Human arm, bird's wing, whale's flipper. D. Direct observation. Humans see evolution happening in nature and in the lab. Examples include 1. Bacteria evolve resistance to antibiotics. Do not say become immune to the antibiotic. 2. Insects evolve resistance to pesticides. Do not say become immune to the pesticide. Over time, the number of insects resistant to the pesticide increases. 3. Artificial selection, selective breeding, alters a species' traits. This models natural selection, but with humans choosing the best traits instead of nature. 4. Observed examples of speciation. Mistakes. Stronger organisms are more fit than weak ones. False. True. Evolutionary fitness is not physical fitness. Fitness is determined by who is better adapted to survive in a particular environment and who can pass on their genes. Stronger is not always better. There are many examples of species for whom it is better to be slow, weak, or stupid than fast, strong, and smart. It all depends on the environment you are in. False. The organism evolved to live in its environment. True. Individual organisms do not evolve. Only populations can evolve. False. The organism could not adapt and it went extinct. True. Individual organisms die. They cannot go extinct. Only species can become extinct. False. The bacteria became resistant to antibiotics when they were exposed to them. True. To evolve, variations must exist in a species before the environment changes, pre-adaptation. Bacteria that did not already have a resistance to antibiotics would die when exposed to them. A chihuahua who is left out in the cold will not grow long, warm fur, and a squirrel who plays in traffic will not evolve automobile resistance. False. Giraffes got long necks because they needed them to eat leaves at the tops of trees. True. Species do not evolve traits because they need them. Short-necked giraffes were never given long necks, any more than slower antelopes are given speed when confronted by a predator. The reason there are no short-necked giraffes, or slow antelope, is that they were outcompeted by members of their species with more helpful traits. Better answers are: giraffes evolved long necks because the ones with longer necks were better able to get food than short-necked giraffes. Or giraffes evolved long necks because more short-necked giraffes died and more long-necked giraffes lived and reproduced.